and deaf people can be and are successful in society. There is actually a deaf university. Most people don't know that. It's in Washington, D.C. It's Gallaudet University, and many people go there. Even some hearing people go there. Juliette Lowe is the founder of Girl Scouts, and she is deaf, or was deaf. Rush Limbaugh, he's a top talk show radio host, and he's a best-selling author, and he's deaf. Heather Whitestone was crowned Miss America in 1995. She was deaf. And Curtis Pride is a major league baseball player, and he was deaf. In conclusion, like I said, as a hearing person, it's hard to make decisions for deaf people. And we think that normal people can only function in society, and someone who is deaf is not normal. However, if you were to compare a child who is deaf to any other child with a disability, a child with Down syndrome, you couldn't expect a Down syndrome child to just not have Down syndrome, just as if you can't expect a deaf child not to be deaf. The goal is to accept the child as they are and help them to learn in the best way that they can. And what's best for them is, what you choose, and that's what's going to happen. So be aware of the options and be aware of what's best for the child. And their success and self-image should be at the forefront in the decision. Thank you. Do you all have any questions? Okay, go ahead.
Do you know about how many people choose D-Deaf over little D-Deaf?
Commonly, right now, I don't know the actual statistic, but I know that oftentimes the first decision that is made is little D, because the parents just don't know the options. They don't know what the big D deaf can offer, and so they choose the little D deaf, hoping that their child can be more like a hearing person, which some people feel is a selfish decision. But when you aren't aware, and that's the only decision you think you have, I can understand why people make it.
You said you went with Big D, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is your feelings on the Big D deaf, those who culturally accept it, often shun those who later on accept cochlear implants to make not only their lives easier, but their families' lives easier on them?
Right.
So what is your opinion on that? Do you think that there should be a more of a closer medium on acceptance of those who choose the option to hear?
Yes, I do. It's very difficult, again, being a hearing person, we can, throw out our opinions all we want, but never actually being in that position makes it very difficult. I have been familiar with people who are big D deaf, and they totally, really refuse people who have cochlear implants, who have hearing aids, who try to be hearing. And I, kind of blame that on probably the experiences they had before they became big D deaf. Probably they were treated like they weren't good enough, etc. And so yes, I hope that there will be a medium between people who do choose little D deaf, that they're not bad deaf people, or they're trying to be something they're not, but just to understand that was a better choice for them. And sometimes, like I said at the beginning of the speech, sometimes it is a better choice for people, especially who have lower or lesser hearing loss. If they can gain hearing back, more power to them, but there are people who doctors will say there's no way you'll ever be able to hear, and so I feel that then that would be the best decision. Did that answer your question? Okay. Are there any other questions?
You kind of touched on it earlier with those that aren't deaf getting assimilated into the deaf community. Kind of going back to the parents' decision, how easy or hard is it for the parents to just really become involved, especially when their child is at if they're at a residential school? Is it easy for them to get plugged into their local deaf community so that when their child comes back to meet with them, they have people to talk to and to communicate with?
Yes. Generally, and you can't speak for everyone, but with my experience as a hearing person, I have signed with many deaf people. I've visited deaf schools, and from my experience, they are very accepting as long as you're willing to meet them halfway. If you're learning their language, they're more than happy to sit there and sign with you, even if you have to ask them what every other word is and your finger spelling. But as long as you're willing to understand that they're not hearing and they're not going to talk to you, they're usually very excited that you want to learn their language. And I feel like that relates often to if you go to another country and you're trying to speak their language, they might laugh because you say the word wrong, but they're going to be excited that you took the time to learn their language and you're interested in their culture. So, any other questions?